Here's the problem. This camping cot sits 13 inches off the ground. And if you're a kid, this would be adventure sleeping. But it's just about too much adventure for an old guy to get up and down off this little cot. You can't sit on it. And in the dark and in a tent, it's just a pain. Let's look at a solution. This is the first solution I came up with. This raises it up from 13 inches to 24. In this version, you can actually sit on the side. You can get in and out of it lots easier, especially with a mattress. And it seems to work. But it's a little crude, and it's also, these leg extensions are kind of heavy and bulky and awkward. I think we can do better. Well, good morning. Welcome to another Memphis Monday. If you're new here, we do about everything. Today we're doing an invention, but we do home improvement, cabinetry, carving, all kinds of stuff. So hope you enjoy it, and we'll get on with the project. Today we're going to be building some leg extensions for a cot. A couple of weeks ago I showed you kind of a model of a proof of concept I was working on for some leg extensions, and today we're gonna finish that project up. These are the ones I built yesterday for myself, but I was telling my buddy about this invention, and he said he'd like to have some too. So today we're going to build his set. Okay, let's. We're not going to get anything done unless we get to work. So let's knock off the chatter and get to work. Here's an overview of the construction of the leg extenders. They consist of two legs, a foot down here that goes between the legs. This is needed because otherwise these legs would dig into the ground. Then we have a channel here that the cot legs fit into. It's a 2-inch thick channel, and then there's some pronged T-nuts in the top here that lock it into place, and then of course there's the cross members at the top, so that what happens is the legs just slot down into that channel and then down into that slot, and then they're locked in place with this thing. And the whole thing is constructed with oak, with one exception. This bottom piece down right here is 1/2-inch plywood for durability. Okay, let's get started. Since we have so many operations to do on each individual part, I've gone ahead and cut the stock for the set of leg extenders. We've got a total of 9 small cross members. We have 6 slot braces. We've got 6 legs, and we got 3 slot bottoms right here. Okay, first thing we're going to look at is the leg. But on these legs, all we have to do with these, there's no pre-preparation for them. The only thing I'm going to do is stain them. If you're a regular viewer, you know that I like to stain everything I can before final construction. I'm going to be staining. I'm going to be staining this set of legs golden oak. The next piece we're going to work on are these, the foot of the leg extension and these top braces up here. There's 2. We process them the exact same way. The front side here is rounded on the end, and countersinks 4 on each one. So each one will have 3 of these parts for a total of 9. I built an assembly jig to make sure that these things are accurately aligned, and I put all 9 of the small cross braces in the assembly jig. First of all, to ensure that they're all exactly the right size, and they are. And also, now to mark the screw countersinks, I have this 3/8 inch marking jig. I can lay this 3/8 inch marking jig right across there and put that line, and it's important that that countersink, that screw countersink, be centered at exactly 3/8 of an inch. I'll go ahead and countersink these holes, and then we can go on to the next operation. Of course, then the final step in the process is to stain everything. Next thing we need to work on is are the this will have a rounded over top right here. The bottom will not be rounded over because we have to put the bottom in, and we have to install what are called pronged T-bolts right here. Another thing I haven't covered, but it's pretty important, is the blowout on the back of these screws. I take a little chisel and just smooth those out. You know, I'm not there can't be any space between this piece and the leg when it's put on. I have another rounding over project here on the router table. In this case, we will be rounding over. We got these countersinks in the lower half of the brace. We want to round over this part right up here. This will be the part that's up, and then this will be the part that's down. So here I'm going to round over this top edge here, but only on the countersink side and the top. This inner edge right along here, I won't round over. We got the long, or the the wide brace is stained. The last piece we're going to be processing here is this strip of plywood that goes up underneath the long braces and forms the slot that the leg sits in. For this part, we'll be using a slightly different, slightly smaller countersink because we're going to be using smaller screws for the bottom. Step is to install, these are called Pronged T-Nuts. You've probably seen them and used them a million times. I've got to install 2 of them in three of these large braces. I'll position the hole, it's a 9/16 inch hole, just above the 1 inch mark on the brace from the flat side. These Pronged T-Nuts are pretty neat, and how you install them is the package tells you what size hole to drill, and just start them in there like that. And then you tap them in with a hammer, and I said tap. You don't want to go full gorilla because you'll bend the prongs over, and sometimes you won't even know you bent the prongs over because the thing's still sitting flat. So kind of get it started. Make sure the prongs are going in. So what'll happen here is this T-bolt, or this thumb screw, will go into that T-nut, and it'll screw through to the other side and keep the leg from coming out of the channel. Well, you can't always do it, but whenever you can, stain your parts before you assemble it. It's just much easier, and it does a much better job. Okay, there's all our parts. Time for us to do some assembly. Well, assembly is a snap using the jig, because you just sit the parts in there, and everything is pre-drilled except I've got to drill through all the screw holes I made. The assembly jig makes it so easy that you feel like you're cheating. Right here I have, I'm making the middle leg here, and I got a mark right there. It tells me where to put this, this wide brace. And know if your assembly jig is square, if you can flip it over and it still fits. Yeah, I've got the assembly jig. I got it rigged up with kind of a notch cut out here at the end, so that I can set this thing up when I install this bottom plate. I don't know if you noticed just there, but the only piece of the puzzle that I didn't run through the assembly jig when we were making it was this bottom plate. and it's a 1/16 of an inch too long. Yeah, that's the beauty of the assembly jig. I don't even consider that a mistake. See, the reason you use an assembly jig is, one of the reasons is it immediately points out parts that aren't right. If a part's not square, or it's too long, or it's too short, not the right shape, you instantly apparent. So rather that, of course it was an error, but on the other hand, it was the jig functioned as designed, which is pretty important. And there we have our perfectly assembled leg. All I gotta do is just put these thumb screws in through the pronged T-nuts we did before. What I'll do is I'll screw them through just till they come out the channel. All right, let me go ahead and assemble the other two legs, and we'll see how this thing's gonna look. Well, I'm installing the last of the thumb screws. You know what that means? That means we're just about done with assembly. So let's take those prototype legs off and install these new ones and see what it looks like. Well, we got it. We turned that pile of wood into the leg extensions. I think staining it before we put it together gave it kind of a legitimacy, sort of a professional look. Not fancy, but certainly competent and rugged looking. I'll put a coat of polyurethane on it, and after the stain dries, maybe I'll sand it out a little bit. All right, overall I'm pretty satisfied, and we'll see how it works on the camping trip. Well, that's it for another Memphis Monday. I think we got our money's worth on this deal. I hope the video's not too long. I don't guess that matters, because you can always skip ahead if you get bored. But we made this pretty good looking set of leg extensions for a cot for my buddy, and they turned out pretty good. They look good. I hope they function. Good. All right, thanks for watching, and make sure you comment and like and favorite and all that stuff you do on YouTube. But most of all, and most important thing, is to come back next week, where we'll have another exciting project. So I'll see you next week. Thanks.